out of those will be very important, and that is why today my guest is an individual who played a major role in government at the time of that election and also went on to represent Rivers Southeast at the National Assembly. I'm talking about no other than Senator Bennett. Birabi. He will be joining us via telephone this morning. You too can be a part of the conversation on Facebook. I'll be giving you all of those details. But first, let's go over to my guest. Senator, good morning.
Morning, Andrew.
All right, thank you for your time with us.
How are you doing?
Very fine, thank you. And happy Democracy Day to you, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure now whether it is a happy day, for Nigeria. First of all, the Democracy Day came out of a struggle in which all Nigerians were involved. Like you said, the turnout on June 12th, 1993 was incredible. And then what we got is just like what we got this time. This election of this year probably made June 12th, it turned out look like a child play. Everybody came out. But would you call what we got a democracy? Votes couldn't be counted. Nobody can announce who won. In fact, they had decided who won the election even before the votes were cast. That's not democracy. I don't think Nigeria, you can't be celebrating democracy in a country where there is no democracy. We haven't, maybe because we are not even getting independent. I want to take it back. Nigeria never fought for independence. We will never fought for independence. It was given on a platter. Either through negotiation and all of that. And those who took custody of it have decided to keep it.
When you say we didn't fight, Senator, when you say we didn't fight for independence, many might want to argue that. So, because for the sake of those people, if you can elaborate for us, because many would recall that we had leaders who at the time stood up and ensured that some of them even lost their life in the process for us to get.
You see, why I say we did not fight for independence. That when you negotiate a deal, you lose some and you win some. When you fight for something and you win the fight, you take it because you won the fight. In the negotiation for our independence, so many things were left in that. It was very well done. Very well done, I must confess. Much, much better than what we have now. But they left room for a few things to happen, which happened later. It was not a Nigerian-based constitution by ourselves for ourselves. Yes, we are the people that came to that conference were Nigerians, all right. But the people that were organizing the conference, why we were doing a Nigerian constitutional conference? Why should it be in Lancaster House in London? How could it be in Lagos or in Kaduna or in Enugu? Any of the regional capitals are retired. Or even in a neutral ground. So I don't think that we got it right from the beginning. But having said that, I think the worst of our situation was created by the military, who now, after they plundered the country and brought us to our knees, they just couldn't, there was nowhere else to go. They now had to what in my own view looks like a military command and obey guideline and rules. You cannot call this what paper we are using now. And I don't blame the system because the way you lay a bed, you sleep on it. You cannot blame what's going on now on the system. You can't call what we have called the Constitution. You can't call it the Constitution. There's nowhere in the world that anybody can be made God and you expect it to work.
The president.
Because what we have now is the president of Nigeria is made a God. He's a God, quote unquote. How do you have a constitution in a country where you have a president who appoints everybody in the country, both the military, the civil population, everything? He appoints the accountant general by himself. he appoints the Auditor General. He appoints all the service chiefs and can remove them at will. He appoints the Chief Justice of the Federation and can remove him at will, like we saw with Onogen. So he appoints the Senate President. Don't mind the charade going on that they are voting. They have been told who to vote for, and they cannot say no. The example is the first time that this condition started when the Senate voted Chibwaka and all of that. What happened? How many Senate presidents were removed by Obasanjo? You know? And since they decided that removal, it's been so. If the president doesn't agree that he should stay, you cannot be. Didn't they remove Saraki? Saraki was elected by his people. Didn't they remove him? So there is no independent, when you say democracy, there is no judiciary, there is no legislature. Everything is one man. And it cannot work.
Many people would argue with you when you make that assertion, but then also there are people that will share the opinion that you share. But it can't take away the fact that in our constitution and the documents that we run with now as a country, those institutions are said to be independent. That aside, the president...
Okay, can I ask a question? How independent is the judiciary that the executive can remove the head of the judiciary without any due process? Who is arguing that? How independent is that? Let's call it spade a spade. Because when everything else fails, the bottom line, the last hope for any justice is the judiciary. So if they're going to take out the head of the judiciary and put him whom he likes, how independent are we in the country?
So if you're saying this about the judiciary now, are you implying...
Because that is the bastion.
So are you implying indirectly that the tribunal that we have now is just a facade? If you listen to the president's speech this morning...
Are you asking me?
Well, I need to, because it's democracy, and the judiciary is an important and integral part of democracy. And in the president's speech today, he was talking about the tribunal, where he was talking about people who will go to court. It shows that democracy has been the best form of government that man has instituted over the years. The fact that people still can go to court when you feel aggrieved, like we have now at the tribunal for people who felt like the process wasn't well carried out.
Andrew. You know, thank God that we haven't gotten to that point where we are not allowed to say what we see. But the same law, the same government. I'm not very certain now, but I think the electoral law was amended to read that all petitions and the challenges should be settled before swearing in the new government. I don't know where I got that right or wrong, but that's what I thought I had. You know, what happened here? You saw what happened. Did the court still insist over the cases? So, I mean, let's not deceive ourselves. We are here because we are here, and because we have nowhere else to go. But this is not a democracy.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take our minds in the next 4 minutes before we go on a commercial. Let's go back to June 12th. I mean, you were in government at the time and played in your own capacity, set in roles. When you look at June 12th, 1993, and you look at what we have now, would you say that the democracy is appreciated or depreciated? Would you also say that the June 12th election was, in quote, as free and the fairest election as many have said? What lessons should we be taking out of that?
Can I ask you a question? Why is it so impossible to count heads instead of writing papers? I'm asking this question because if it was writing papers that we did in June 12th, I mean that 1993 election, I would never have gone to the Senate. I did primaries 5 times. And each time, because it was head count, all we did was to take a video of the line. And then you see, somebody has 3 persons on his line. I have about 30 or 40 people in my line. They say the person was 3 persons won. They will declare the person won. When they see the video, how can 3 be more than 40? And since then, they never allowed head count again because it cannot be manipulated. I can tell you it was my own election that made it impossible for them to allow headcount for so many reasons. You know, there are things that you cannot say online. So basically, you cannot compare what's going on now with June 12th. June 12th was the best and only credible election this country has held. And it produced the country's results.
And you think it was because of the head count?
It was still Muslim. Nigeria, our problem in Nigeria is not religion. Our problem is not religion. Muslim is nothing to do with Muslim ticket. I was in the Senate with Tinubu. You wouldn't even know that he was a Muslim. You know, most of the things they were doing. Our problem is not Muslim, it's not religion. Our problem is the cabal that wants to hold this country and pocket it. And, you know, as we grew older, some people joined, some people dropped out. I dropped out, Tinubu joined. So he's in it now. I'm not sure that if he were where he is today, he wouldn't have joined Nadeko to do to fight for June 12th. If he was where he is now, then he wouldn't have been fighting for June 12th. So the problem the country that there is no election now, so the choice of government is just by choice of person. Period. You know, there's no compare between what happened this year and June 12th. June 12th was Nigerian spoke. This year, power spoke. But
at the end of the day, if we look at June 12th, many would say that many people would say common opinion is that MKO Abiola had won that election. But then, that wasn't the case at the end of the day.
Is there common opinion?
No, the reason is because he has been said to have won that election, but that was not what we saw. And so because there are now two opinions to it, some would also argue that, we had Babangida, we had Tofa all in that election, and people would try to make cases. But my point is, the similarities between that election and this election that we had on February 25, where Nigerians also came out in their numbers, and there's now also the argument that, we do not think that the leading party and the president at the moment won that election, which is now also very debatable, is in the tribunal, would allow them to decide that. But then those similarities, it brings me to ask what you would say is still the major problem of Nigeria's democracy. I would allow you to respond to this question after we return from this very short commercial. Just stay on the line for us for the next 2 minutes. When we return from the commercial, I will get your thoughts on this particular question.
Okay.
Senator Birabi with us this morning on the show, and you too can respond to that question at Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. We'll be right back.
Announcement! Big announcement!